friends and foes, welcome to Let's Get Nerdy. My name is Cory, and today I just wanted to give my thoughts on the first episode of Season 2 for HBO's The Last of Us. For context, The Last of Us, the original video game, is my favorite video game of all time. The first time I played it all the way through was on a friend's PS4 before I even got one of my own, and it truly, in terms of, I guess, video games and nerdy stuff, was a transformative experience. It's, again, by far my favorite video game of all time. I love the original Last of Us. Part 2, I felt was an incredible sequel and lived up to the hype, or I felt lived up to my expectations. I know that's not a super common or popular opinion, but that's mine at least. And then for the season 1 of the show itself, I thought was phenomenal. I think it perfectly adapted the feeling of the first game to screen, but with fresh elements added to make sure the story was still feels somewhat new to seasoned fans like myself, particularly, the Bill and Frank episode is, I know some people might call it overrated, and I think those people are haters. I think it's a perfect episode of television, and it is, that whole first season, I just thought, for the most part, knocked it out of the park. Now, Season 2, Episode 1, I think very much continues this trend. I thought this episode was awesome. I loved how much more of the town of Jackson, Wyoming we got, the people in it, and the actual kind of everyday workings of Jackson, Wyoming. Especially I love seeing Ellie and Joel's role in the town, with Joel kind of being the quote unquote foreman, kind of leading all the projects, maintaining the town itself. And I especially love seeing Ellie kind of get to settle into a new state of adolescence, kind of a weird version of adolescence, with her, beginning to have crushes on people and joke around with other people her age, but still going out on these, what's the word I'm thinking of? Patrols, looking for, signs of, I guess, people or clickers or infected, kind of doing these patrols. I think is a very clever way of showing what the quote-unquote new norm for whatever this world is now, that there's some form of normalcy, but it's all still a little weird considering what's beyond the walls of this town. Plot-wise, as I'm sure you're aware, we're starting off kind of very similarly to the game itself, which I want to avoid game spoilers or spoilers from the game, because I just don't know. I really don't know how they're going to bring in stuff from the game, just because The Last of Us 2 is a much more, I think, grandiose story, and there's a lot more moving parts to that story than there is the first one. So I'm going to try, I will reference the game if I feel like the scene is from the game, if that makes sense. So, and with that, we start off very much like we do with the game, of Ellie being very clearly upset with Joel, but no really understanding why, except for if you played the first game or if you've seen the first season, you kind of can put together why she's upset. And this part particularly even leads to a pretty entertaining interaction between Joel and Dina, where at first it's the guise of asking about how to do kind of some technical stuff with electrical boxes, I believe, or fuses or whatever. No, breakers, that's right, breaker boxes. And then she just kind of very quickly asks about Ellie, and I love this. I thought it was a great scene. I think this is the only interaction, or how to say this? I don't think there was an interaction between Joel and Dina in the game itself. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it was cool to see these characters interact, because again, I don't think they interacted in the actual game. Again, could be wrong about that. And then you do get the scene of Joel seeking therapy, which I think is probably the best scene in this episode. You get Pedro Pascal, Catherine O'Hara acting their asses off, Joel going to therapy, and I kind of like this because it's the way I feel like they set it up is unclear if he's actually trying to heal and work through the things that he's done, or maybe he's just doing this what he feels like he should do to maybe get back on Ellie's good side. And with that, whatever the reason, the tension Catherine O'Hara brings to her, on her side of the scene, is just palpable, with her recounting how much she hates Joel because he was the one who killed Eugene, her husband, and even with her calling out that he's like not telling the truth and all that. I think this is a really, really good scene. I love this. I feel like this scene is a great example of, you always hear the term with storytelling of show, don't tell, of showing these characters' history through their dialogue and their interactions with each other, by Catherine O'Hara even trying to talk herself almost out of hating Joel, of saying she knows she shouldn't. She knows Joel just did what he had to or what he needed to do because, you kind of can put together the math or connect the dots that Eugene was probably infected and Joel, but still, in spite of this, she still hates Joel because he who killed her husband, and I guess she specifically says the way he did it is what bothers her. This is just such a great scene of, again, two awesome actors acting their asses off, and I think another great piece about this, of even when Joel is looking for validation or evoking the idea that I am a good person, that his sins will always be there in his face to remind him of reality. Of, yeah, Joel, even if we agree with his actions, Joel's not a good guy. Joel has not done good things, and that will follow him around for better or worse. And just, this is an immaculate scene, a special, tour de force in storytelling, if I can be overly artistic in the way I describe this scene. I also want to talk about the scene where the supermarket scene, where they stumble into a supermarket. They go on, Ellie, Dina, and a few of the other people from Jackson end up going on a patrol together, looking, for signs of infected, and it's supposed to be just a recon, but they end up following a very bloody trail to find a bear that has been killed by 6 different infected, and they investigate the market that the bear is in front of, and this scene is awesome. If I can say that, it's just a really great set piece. Firstly, the confrontation with the 2 clickers I thought was great, seeing Dina and Ellie kind of communicate with kind of a makeshift sign language to kind of put together a plan while the clickers are at the other end of the hallway. I also love the little bit of Ellie exploring while trying to make her way to the clicker, just because I think that very much evokes the feeling of the game, and especially glancing around and seeing the dog as the employee of the month. I think that's just a little touch of that's exactly what it feels like playing the game of seeing your surroundings while you're terrified. And I thought this was a great, this alone was a great kind of set piece or action piece, especially because season 1, I think, in terms of the action department, didn't do as much as maybe personally I would have wanted. That's probably my biggest complaint about season 1, of other than I think the set of Kansas City episodes, there wasn't really any huge action piece that really overly impressed compared to playing the game, where it's such an action heavy game. But season 1's still awesome. But getting back to the market scene, I then love the reveal of the Stalker, which is my absolute least favorite enemy to fight in the second game. When it comes to horror games, I am what you would call a coward. For context, with Alien Isolation, a game that's been out for 12 years now, I have probably sat down to play that game a total of 10 times, and can only make it a maximum, I think, of 20 minutes, just because for some reason horror video games specifically create this tension inside of me that I can't push through. Except for the Last of Us game. Like, the Last of Us games are like the only exception, and I think that's because those scenes are so kind of sparse or surrounded by other great stuff. But yes, the Stalker in this version of the Stalker is just as terrifying as it is in the game, especially seeing it kind of slink around and like the slow contortionist style movement you see it in. And in the game you don't see it, I guess, hunting as much as you do in this version, and I think that adds to a level of tension, especially kind of with you don't know how many are there and stuff like that. It's a great scene, and it's a great ending with Ellie killing it but still getting bitten and having to kind of hide that, and you see her ended up cutting herself to disguise the bite so that she doesn't tip people off to the immunity or whatever, or have people hastily react. Kind of multitude of reasons for her to not want people to think she got bit by an infected. Just a really good scene, and I love the discussion after it. Them telling the council back at Jackson and them not entirely believing, not believing Dina, but believing Ellie and not really knowing what to do with this new information. I thought was really good, showing that there is a political side to this world still, even though that the goal is survival. There is obviously delegation or a decision process that needs to be made here. Super great scene. And then after that we get the barn scene that's just ripped right from the game, which I think there's really nothing that's changed from game to show, which is fine because it's an incredibly written scene already, but with the chemistry, particularly between Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced, as Dina, who just really, the chemistry that they share, I think really helps reinforce just already incredible scene. And yeah, if you like the scene from the video game, like I did, you'll like the scene in the show. It's just as good. I don't really have a lot to say about it, just because it's a really fucking good scene. I love it ends with the burst of violence from Joel, because I think in a way that's the only way he feels like he can stand up or protect Ellie is with the burst of violence, and then you get Ellie, at first you think, kind of, I think, a really good juxtaposition actually from the first episode of season 1 where Joel kills the soldier and Ellie for the first time sees somebody fighting for her or protecting her, and kind of you see in her eyes like a kind of a joy from it, or like a comfort from season 1. This is the inverse of that, of being like, why the fuck are you still following me around with this bullshit? I thought was a really good juxtaposition, and obviously sets us up for, I guess, I don't know what it sets up. I don't know what I'm saying when I say it sets us up, but I think creates for just a really good emotional kind of tether here. And you see Joel kind of not sure how to proceed with that reaction. He was probably, it just is a really good ending to that scene. Kind of a good ending to the episode. The episode then kind of ends with not only the tease of a potential outbreak within the camp of, you see the tendrils or like the vines kind of coming alive in a piece of pipe that was taken out, but then you again get the arrival of Abby and her group, which I didn't talk about it. There is a scene. The episode starts with starts with Abby and her group kind of looks like it's burying the dead from the hospital and asking for her to be able to kill Joel slowly. And then you get the tease of them arriving to Jackson, and I love how little we get of them, but because it's very, I love how little we get of their dynamic and how like the little teases we get, because it just makes me want to see exactly how they're portrayed in the show that much more. But yeah, that's the first episode of season 2. I thought, again, a really, really solid start to the season. The teaser looked awesome, teasing a bunch of stuff that I don't even know how to react to right now. I don't know if I'm going to make a reaction to every single episode. I guess as long as the episodes are this good, I'm going to try to make a reaction. So if you want to hear more about if you want to hear more of my discombobulated commentary on Last of the Season 2, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. If you like Godzilla, we already on the channel have a series called Go Go Godzilla, where we go through every single Godzilla movie in the franchise and to determine which one truly is king of them all. We have about 2 episodes left of that we are going to eventually get to once we get our schedules aligned and figured out. And then we have recently dropped 2 different reviews of a Minecraft movie, and with that, the Superman trailer that came across with it. So all that is in the channel, so check all of that stuff out. Until then, I gotta get back to it. Until next time, I've been Cory, and I gotta get back to nerding out. Thank you very much.